It's actually the fourth time that I've talked at this convention. I worked it out. I've talked at it first as the writer of an independent report. That was the first time. The second time I was invited up because I was an advisor to the previous administration, the Labour administration. The third time I was the shadow spokesman for the Conservatives on welfare reform. And so this is the fourth time when I'm actually the Minister for Welfare Reform. So you can complain about the number of hats that I've been wearing, and I know that in the front row, the third row, Matthew Lester has always challenged me to eat my hat, but I'm on the fourth hat now, and I refuse to eat anything. So I may have changed around a bit, but I hope that one of the things that I've managed to do is stay actually rather consistent in what I've been talking about in these conventions, and that is simply we must reduce the benefit dependency in this country, and we must get more people into jobs, and we must create an effective structure, an effective industry that can do that. And I've said that at each of these conventions. The thing about work is that not only is it something that we want people to do, but to get them to do it, we've got to make sure that it's properly incentivized, and that it's worth people doing it. So one of the things that this government's doing as it attacks this problem is clearly it's picking up the work programme which Chris Grayling, my colleague, talked about this morning to you. But at the other side of the equation, we have got to reform the benefit system to reinforce and encourage people to make the leap. And so I want to talk to you about both of those aspects today. The other thing I want to talk to a little bit more, in a little bit more detail, on top of those two things, I want to talk a little bit about the framework contract that was advertised earlier this week, and which, again, Chris talked about. Let me just talk about, what's behind these programs. The need to fight dependency. If people are capable of work, and actually I have a belief that a huge number of the people who currently think they are not capable of working are capable of working. It is a tragedy when they depend on a far too higher proportion of their income on the state, because dependency must rob people of their self-determination. It must rob people of the sovereignty over their own lives. So we're not just talking about reducing dependency, we're talking about empowering people to live better lives. The other thing is that is the fight against poverty, which we as a party have endorsed. But the approach to tackling this problem is something that we think has been wrong-headed. It's not just about topping up incomes and you doing a rather mechanistic looking at what the median might be to define moving people just above it. We've got to look at the underlying causes of poverty as well. So cash benefits clearly are important, but they're simply not enough. And what we need are solutions for what are a series of entrenched problems, and our programs for welfare to work and for benefit reform are designed to start that process. Clearly, it would be naive not to admit that if we can get people off benefits, out of dependency, we will improve the fiscal position of the budget, and we all know how important that has become. We'll have more tax revenues, more consumer spending. We get a virtuous economic circle. I think the other thing that I think everyone in this room would agree with really is the social impacts of dependency and the beneficial social impact of reducing that dependency. We all know that we're looking at some communities where we've got multi-generational disadvantage, multi-generational worklessness, multi-generational poverty. And the reform that we're talking about is a part of tackling that. One of the places where people have been tucked or parked is incapacity benefit, and there are now still 2.6 million on either incapacity benefit or ESA, and when you're stuck on IB, clearly it's very hard to move out into the world of work. I mean, the actual structure of the benefit stops you doing that, and one of the things we want to do is unlock people, and clearly that there's a series of things we need to do to unlock the capacity of those people, and the first thing we need to do is to reassess them to look at which of them can actually join the workforce. And that's the purpose of the change from the PCA, the Personal Capability Assessment, to the Work Capability Assessment. That was a tool, as you all know, designed for people going on to the Employment and Support Allowance, and we're now going to start the process next April, actually a little earlier, of moving everyone who's currently on IB through that assessment system. There have been quite a few public criticisms of the Work Capability Assessment. It is reasonably accurate. It can be improved. We've done an internal review to look at that, and we're looking at some changes to improve it. We're also having an external review led by Professor Malcolm Harrington, which will report back to us by the end of the year, and we will clearly look very closely at those recommendations. That report, he is due to look at it every year, so we will constantly try and improve that particular assessment. And I must emphasize the point that for those of the most severely sick and disabled customers, where work simply is not a fair ask, and there are a group, those people will receive unconditional cash benefits within the support group. You all know, the other part of the ESA, which is the work-rated activity group, and the purpose of that particular distinction is to enable people to receive the skills, training, self-confidence to allow them to move back into the labour market. And the final group, clearly those who are transferred straight onto JSA, they need the appropriate level of help to get them into the workforce. We're going to start, as I said, soon. We'll start in October with some pilots in Aberdeen and Burnley, and then we're going to start rolling it out nationally early next year.